So, one of the things that come up for me this week is I was trapped in what I should, quote in quotes, do, and not living more fully into what I know to be true. And this is like something that I've been unraveling for years and coming back to the realization, right? And it's not just in the artworks, it's actually in all expressions and showing up to how I want to be and what I want to bring together and how I want it to create, right? So that's the difference is it's not just the realization I wasn't showing up fully in the artworks, I wasn't showing up fully in my life out of the many fears, right? The thing that I was trapped in the most is like if I only do the spiritual side, then I can't do this side, or if I do that, I can't have this, or like I won't be accepted in there, or like all the shit that gets in your head. And all that stuff is just like old stories, old programming. When I say programming, I'm talking about the things we've been like conditioned and told over time that becomes a loop in there, which you need to kind of extrapolate all of that, which can take time, right? Because sometimes, what we see isn't always the truth, and vice versa. There's many truths, and there's many paths into this inner discovery in our artworks and what we want to express in our creativity. And when I say creativity, I'm bringing that under the bigger umbrella of everything, right? Even living into the fullest expression of you. And then you could think universe, that's all connected, right? So the thing that happens with the fear is that there will actually be not acceptance when you step into yourself, and then people won't want to meet you there for whatever reason or care, or that will actually happen. And that is something we fear too, especially if we've lived in these with this thing stuck into us, I need the acceptance and the approval and all this crap, whatever that program is. So a lot of times when you're facing yourself, it's about stripping away all that is and was in order to get what will be, right? Sometimes we need to lose the loss of identity, lose the identity in order to claim more of ourselves in the process of it all, not just in art, work making, drawing, creativity, but what we want to say even, and how we want to show up, and be fully present to what's the most important thing for us first. Us individually as creatives, artists, whatever you're calling yourself, it's perfectly fine. That divine spark within that heart of awareness is really important. And so it's more than just an art making program that I'm designing when I talk about F.A.C.E, Forge Ahead, Create Every Day. It's a tool and a system, but it has its roots in non-representational drawing, and then it's going to work on all the bodies. The physical, emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the energetic, and that's how I see it. It's kind of like a subset of what I know to be true for myself in these other lives. Well, in the sense of I have my artist and I have my energetic shamanic self here, the soul, and I'm combining the two things, creating that bridge. I feel called to bridge everything at this time. Of course, I've been hiding for years, so if you're hiding out there, I know what it's like. if you're sensitive, if you're really trying to move into that voice and that expression, whatever it is. Maybe it's not even art making, but I still feel like the foundations of a non-representational drawing practice is for anybody. I'm a proponent. I'm focused on the democratization of drawing. Drawing is for everyone. And there's and you don't need much to start. You just need your hand, a sheet of any kind of paper, and any kind of mark making tool. And that's exciting because that's super minimal, and the access is so easy. Easy entry into that. It's the understanding too for me. The more I've worked over the years, always in my drawing practice and painting practice, but I've always had the drawing component, which I noticed I started to reconnect to my voice and to the other parts of me that was hiding. Of course, it wasn't I want to say this isn't just the only one thing. I've been doing other things on the side, personal development, spiritual practice, deep diving into the shadow. So, the face is kind of built off of all these things, like the internal processes of ripening over time and not just running out there right away. Working through a lot of things and, letting that unfold within me. But, at the same time, I was afraid too. But, maybe, the fear kept me safe in a way. But the thing about safety for me, the fear of being seen was really a big sticking point for me. Because of my past, right? Because of all the traumas and, just feeling, that the sensitivity was too weird to bring it out, and how does it fit into this, and this, blah, 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 blah. So I kind of said F it and threw it all away. Life kind of punched me in the face, and here we are. Face. There's so many faces that we sometimes put on, right? But this is ultimately about your internal face in the sense of, you know what you're hiding in there, right? It's sometimes challenging. And blaming something. It's easier to blame. I always say that. It's harder to take a look at yourself, and I know this in many ways, because I was a locked up artist for years, with these judgments and external projections that I was putting on to things, until I had my first blow up, and I started turning inward more, and it's not perfect. It's a practice. We could still make mistakes. We can have awarenesses. We can have all the plans and all the whatever, books, whatever, and you could still fall down. So FACE is also a realistic and practical process of understanding what it takes to stay in the long game of not just your art and creative practice, but your life. This is important because how do you show up in all the emotional states, and how do you become more resilient and stronger when it's crashing down? That's a good question. Sometimes I'm not that good at it. But, I gotta say, all of these last years, there's been things that have been falling apart. I've always been making the artworks, so I know how powerful art making is on the bare minimum level, in the sense of if you're just using it as a tool to connect back into yourself and to come online and use your voice and want to show up and be seen, that's powerful. And that's an internally driven process, right? So we're not focused on the external rewards And we're not getting caught up in them either. This is what makes F.A.C.E exciting and different and unique, besides bringing in an energetic component and working on all the bodies, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, energetic. It's like a cycle of understanding of how we like keep ripening over time. But you gotta, to me, you stay in your practice, whatever it is, your art practice, your spiritual practice, your whatever you're writing or wanting to do, your creativity, your creation. And that's builds a strong foundation. And it might not be immediate, and that's important to say, because we're all starting at different places with different understandings, and maybe one person has more stuff to work through before they can move into that clearer seeing. It's more about the process and the experimental and experiential, energetic and emotional understanding and opening. When we learn to touch down into the heart of the matter, we get closer to who we are, not just as artists and creatives, but like in this present scene. And I can stand here fully now and say this to you, but and it's been a process, right? There's been a lot of things I had to work through in order to just say, this is what it is, this is who I am, this is what I want to create, these are my expressions, this is the most interesting to me. So if you've been hiding out in that, or you've been making something, but you know deep down in that gut and power center and that heart that there's like this other thing that's dying to get out, but maybe you've been afraid, or intimidated, or maybe comparing too much. In the beginning I had so much comparison, and I could still fall into that. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's hard to like anchor your energy and your emotionality and just be fully present with all of it, right? That's definitely a practice and a process. What's cool about a non-representational drawing practice and the building the foundations of abstraction is we're really learning to see beyond what we see. Abstract, right? That's the whole point. At least in my world, this is how I see abstraction. And there's other artists in the past that have been running in those realms. I'm not gonna say I'm the first person, but what is highest interest to me at this time, connecting it all, talking about it, bridging it, bringing it out into the light of awareness, and combining what I know to be true through my lived experiences. It's important because it wasn't just like an overnight thing. It was like a lifetime, really, and decades of highs and lows, and seen many sides of something, including the darkness and the in-betweens and the light. And realizing that, whoa, it's all here, and it's a choice of what you choose, even to show up to create. But I didn't always have the, confidence, or I would even say self-esteem, especially in my early, younger years, right? So if you can relate to that. And then my extreme sensitivity kind of like took me out of so many things, and sometimes I got lost on the path of just, I guess caring too much sometimes. But, I don't really hold that against myself, because it's just who I am. And I haven't had a perfect journey, right? Like, I've definitely made mistakes, so I don't want to say, I definitely take accountability for that, is what I'm trying to say. In the sense of, when you learn to face it all, you do look at what you've done in many ways, unfortunately. And sometimes when we're like challenged to look at the harder things, and we go to create that thing, we can get locked up in the expression. So we get like stuck in the energy of it. It's because, that unconscious is being siphoned through us. But what F.A.C.E does is we learn to work with all of that. So exciting and important, because then you can show up daily to anything, not just in art, but in living. And you're gonna be like this powerful creator, moving from the center out into more and accessing more of everything. It's important to say that, because when you're not hiding who you are, you can just show up to how you want to do your work, whatever it is, artworks, creative works, writing, speaking, and you bring yourself all there. And you find the resonance by showing up to the moment and daring to keep going despite it all. And that is powerful. So when we start living more fully into who we truly want to be and what we truly want to express in art and living and in writing and speaking and showing up to whatever you're creating, you know, it can be anything, you'll find yourself, you know, reorientating. And sometimes what happens in this movement forward and through, you know, there's a loss of identity, there's a lot of uncertainty, groundlessness. Now, groundlessness is just going to happen. It's part of the process, so we learn to dance with it, is what I like to say. It becomes a dance. So like when we're looking at the harder stuff, we can kind of like eventually like crisscross it and into the creative work and into the creative expression. This is exciting because then it's true what I say is inspiration can be anything. We're not limited to be saying, oh my god, I'm going through grief, I can't make this work. Actually, like, I would say it might be the most potent time. Now, I want to say that, of course, I know that it's not always possible. And there are circumstances out there. So this also requires, you know, the individual you to be open to the ideas, right? But if it's not for you, then it's just not for you. And that's okay too. But this is like what I've learned over time, not just through making art every day for 7 years, but you know, through the decades of experience of like healing work, through my spiritual teachers. It doesn't just come from me. I pass it down through me because I've taken that journey, right? So we're all on this journey together, and it's all about choosing what you want to do. But the thing is, if you're trapped in the fears of it all, and in your power center in that heart, you know that you want to express or live into that thing or go do that thing finally. The thing, I don't know what the thing is for you. Maybe it's not even art making, or, you know, I'm like a proponent for art making because I love it so much and I'm in it every day. And, yeah, it's my thing, but you have a thing too, is what I'm trying to say. We all have a thing that we want to do, create, move towards. But sometimes the fear gets in the way. And then people run away. And I know that personally because I ran away from myself for years, especially being the artist, and that sensitive heart just couldn't figure it out, you know. And that's what F.A.C.E is about, is not just like making your marks and finding that visual language, but it's really coming into being with, you know, the self. And that's an intimate process. And it is scary to be intimate with ourselves, because it's scary to be intimate with another and take down the masks and start to be vulnerable. But we have to be vulnerable with ourselves first, right? Like, what is that thing that's in the way? And what is my desire? how could have I done this differently? Saying these things and being compassionate towards ourselves in the process of our own unfolding and our own inner discovery. And sometimes when it's hard, we can pull that into a mark, and have that transformation in the moment. And that's, man, I think we take it for granted because it's so simple, and sometimes it is too abstract for that person that's not heavily doing every day with this understanding. But what really happens is, whoa, over time you find that you do come online and align to a lot, right? It's just like any kind of practice. And this is just one tiny fragment of an idea, of a perception through me, and there's so many others, but I'm excited about my directions because they're opening these doors to so much more, but I'm also sometimes afraid of it, right? I want to say that honestly, the acceptance piece has never really been easy for me, because I feel like we all desire that, right? But when you've been shut down for a long time, it's hard to get out and start to move in those directions, and I know this, and I'm doing it now, and I've been doing it for few years now. The last year is pretty prevalent and potent, in my choice to just say and do it the way I want to do it. So I in art and in the expressions, and I've had help along the way, right? So this is just a tool and a different way of looking at it, and something that will guide you forward into the next thing, right? Because it's never any one thing. It's a path, it's a journey of self-exploration and expression, and finding that ultimate creation, and that's exciting. So I know that your thing is out there, and that's exciting. So we can move into that more and keep moving forward,